Hello, world. I was just reading a good book about a young man who left a career in television and moved to West Africa to go live in a mud hut. Crazy, huh? Do you have an amazing story that you'd like to tell the world? Or if you're a teacher, do you have a great concept that you use in classes that you would like to see put between a cover and publish? If you do, today I'm going to show you how to get started on making that dream become a reality. Hello world, my name is Stephen Walker and welcome to A Walker in the Woods. If you decide to tune in to this content and turn on, please drop me one of these. It does help the algorithm. So today I want to take you through 6 major stages of self-publishing. And I will offer my personal insight into how to turn a classroom-tested material into a polished professional textbook, or if you have a personal story, cooking recipes, a children's book concept, anything. I will show you the main steps on how to get that concept through all the way to a quality looking book that you can put on your bookshelf and even get online and start making a profit. So before I get started, I do want to show you a few of the final projects that I have completed. And the first book that I made was this, and it was a memoir that I wrote almost 30 years ago. It was after I returned from a 2-year stint in West Africa, where I did live in a mud hut, and I was a natural resource volunteer there. So I left television in the States, and I moved to a mud hut with no electricity, no television, no running water. So I always thought, well, this is a pretty good story, and a lot of people actually write books about this. But when I got home and I wrote out my transcript, now 30 years ago, there was no way to self-publish, so I had to find a publisher. Luckily, I had a friend who lived in San Francisco, and she had a friend who was working in the publishing industry. So I sent him my transcript. He liked it. He shopped it around, and then maybe, I don't know, 3 months later, he sent me a letter and he said, "I'm sorry, it's just not getting any traction. No one is interested in a personal growth story these days." So that transcript basically sat on the shelf for about 25 some odd years until self-publishing became a possibility. When I started seeing people self-publish, it was time for me to learn the technology. I navigated the system and was finally able to get my story into a tangible format that now can sit on someone's shelf and collect dust. Just kidding. It's a pretty good story still, and I'm very happy with it. So moving ahead, after Peace Corps, in 2000, I moved to South Korea, and I became an English teacher. And I worked at a university, and I'm still working at the same university. But when I first began as an ESL language instructor or English teacher, for the first 9 years, I really struggled to connect with students to get them to talk. And I finally asked them, "Why are you here? Why am I here? But most importantly, why are you studying English?" And the top 4 answers that I would receive every class that I would ask, number 1 was, "I have to be here. This is a prerequisite class. If I don't take this class, I don't graduate." Number 2, English is a global language, and that is true. Number 3, travel. And travel, most people like to travel, not everybody, but exploring a new country, a new culture, it's exciting. And number 4 was, I need English for a better paying job. So taking these answers into consideration, I thought, If students have to be in my class, if they feel they have to be here, they like travel, and we all know that English is a global language, then why don't I create a class concept around that? As far as the job, they're on their own. They have to find their job, but they should study English. So basically, I developed a basic journal, and it was out of A4 paper. Now, this is the new and improved journal, but at the time, it was just an A4 piece of paper that I folded, and I had 6 pages, stapled them together, and uh, it allowed us to turn any unit from any book into into a research project in which they would answer the questions that I gave them. For example, if the textbook is about, if the unit is about clothing, then I would ask what type of clothing is worn in Rwanda? What kind of clothing is worn in uh, Zambia, wherever. Each student would choose a different country that they wanted to travel to, basically. And so they would go home and they would research this. Long story short, while I was getting my master's in TESOL, which is teaching English to students of other languages, and using my self-publishing skills that I acquired from making this book, I created my first ESL textbook, and it was called Tell Me About It Before You Get There, Developing English Fluency Through Research and Discussion of Country and Culture. And that little journal that I used was an insert in this book. And this book now is in its second printing, so I had a bit of success with this. So after having success with this, then I decided to create one more book. And this book is called Think About It, and I just got it printed last year. So my layout and design skills have much improved since the very first book. So I will begin teaching this book in the upcoming semester, and I'm pretty excited about that. So if you have an interesting story to tell, or if you have a great concept in your class that you would like to see being printed and that you can use, it's all consolidated into one textbook. And if you'd like to earn a little bit of extra money on the side, then stay tuned. I'm going to take you through 6 main steps on how to get started. I'm going to be using a PPT that I've used in conferences that I've presented at. So this will not only keep me focused, but it'll give you the information visually. So let's go. So here we are, self-publishing your concept or classroom content. If you were to write or create your own book, what would it be about? What is your talent? What would you like to share with the world? As I said earlier, is it a children's book? Is it a cookbook? Is it a novel, fiction, nonfiction? Or is it a textbook? And the second question I'd like to ask is, what is the most difficult part of writing a book? What do you think is the most difficult? Brainstorming, learning the technology, motivation, endurance? For most people, the most difficult and complicated part of writing process is the beginning, is basically just getting started, putting pen to paper. One of my favorite authors, Mark Twain, he said, write what you know. But as I said, there are 6 stages on how to create a polished professional textbook. Number 1 is developing your concept and content. Then we will take a look at the software needed to create a professional product. 3 is the learning curve, which is time, and it will take time. We'll look at some prices and basic computer skills needed. Number 4 is how to polish up your finished product and find a professional printer. 5 is how to self-promote your product. And then number 6 is some do's and don'ts to save time and money that I have learned along the way. So let's take a look at developing your content, some things to think about. Now, part of this presentation that I'm going to be giving today will be South Korean educator focused. However, that being said, if you are watching this from Europe, America, if you do not have any interest in textbooks, there are timestamps on this video, and you can go to the category that basically you are most interested in. So what content are you interested in developing, and is it possible to turn it into a full 1 semester or a 2 semester book? Of course, what level of English ability are you wanting to reach? And here there are basically 9 levels, from very advanced all the way down to beginner. So you should choose 1 or 2 and focus on the vocabulary that's important for that level. The next question is, what type of book do you want to create? Do you have a favorite type of textbook or favorite publisher? The format is very important depending on the level. And how will you fill the pages? Mostly text? Do you want to use images, black and white, color, crossword puzzles? There's a lot of questions to answer before you even get started. Also, units. How many units do you want in a book? Most books have upwards of 10 to 18 units. And again, more units, it can last throughout a 2-semester year. Once you choose the number of units that you want, how many pages? Both of my books basically have 6 pages per unit. The approach is next. So obviously we need to choose language that is meaningful to the learner. Think about and include activities to carry out meaningful communication. And those activities should involve real communication. A lot of textbooks these days, they just seem a bit disconnected. And the dialogue doesn't really relate to a lot of students, so they basically just read through it because the teacher asks them, please read this dialogue with a partner. But if you create a dialogue that has meaningful content that the student can plug in their own information, then they become more active in the classroom. Content that supersedes language learning, or topics that inspire thinking beyond the book or beyond the classroom, giving them research projects to take home and complete and bring back and share. So when you want to start designing your book, some activities to consider are accuracy and fluency, the vocabulary used, using definitions and useful phrases. Information gap is another activity, which is a fill in the blank or comprehension of reading. So you have an article to read, a few paragraphs to read, and then you have either fill in the blank, true or false answers. Information gathering in classroom, if you allow them to use their phone, or outside class research. And I like this. I like having them take their homework home and do it at home, thus homework, and then they bring it back and share. Mechanical and meaningful communicative practice or a good dialogue. Again, in my first book, I have dialogue, and that is using their own answers. Each student has different answers for the dialogue. It creates an interesting classroom environment in which they can read their dialogue, share their information through a standard dialogue, but they plug in their information and basically teach their peers, their classmates, about a country that they are researching. Opinion sharing, Q&A, and also debatable topics. My second textbook here, think about it. It's also partially a debate book. You can turn each unit into small debate. Using all 4 skills in every unit. I'm a very big fan of this. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing are the 4 skills in learning a language. And both of my books use all four skills in every unit. I recommend, if possible, that you use all four skills. But most importantly, continuity. Continuity is key, and I will talk about this more later. So, a third question for you. What skills do you have now to create a book? You may say, I don't have any skills. I'm a teacher, or I'm a housewife, or I'm a garbage man, whatever. But I have a good concept. Now what? Where do I go from here? You don't need any of these to begin. If you do have some of these, then you are already halfway there to creating your book. Writing obviously is important. If you're a photographer, that will add a personal touch to your books. Layout and design, if you've never learned it, don't know what it is, it's not as hard as you think. And then graphic design. So software needed. There are two that I would recommend, but one that I have used personally. The first one is Affinity Designer 2, and the second one is Adobe InDesign. Now, I have used Adobe from the very first book all the way through. However, I have a colleague who is also a self-published author, and he went from Adobe InDesign to Designer 2 by Affinity, and he gives it 2 thumbs up. So the price of both. As of November 2023, Affinity Designer 2 offers a one-time purchase model with each product priced at $70 for Mac and Windows and $19 for iPad. The entire suite costs $165. That is pretty cheap. In contrast, the Adobe Creative Cloud follows a subscription-only model with options ranging from $10 a month to $90 a month. It is not cheap. And if you look at the suite, they have 30, at least, if not more, 30 different products that they offer. However, there are only 4. Actually, there's only 2 that I use most. InDesign is what you will design your textbook with. And Photoshop, if you have photos or images that you want to manipulate, Photoshop is definitely worth learning. Illustrator, I've used it a little bit. The learning curve is much more steep than Photoshop. But if you are creative and you want to design your own images, logos, Illustrator is what to use. And then Adobe also offers stock photos, and I actually never knew this until recently. Well, I've used my own photography for my first book. The second book, I used 2 different websites, and I'll take a look at those shortly. But Adobe does have stock photos that you can use if you do buy their suite. The learning curve. As I said, it will take time to learn this. However, if you are passionate, if you have time to learn and patience, and if you like learning new things, then this will be a great adventure. I've enjoyed a lot of it. Some of it has been frustrating, but overall, it's a skill that I've learned, developed, and get better at each day. So basically, when you get started, you're going to decide what type of book. So you will basically decide the margins, the size, the width, the length of the book. And once you get into the production, creating, you'll see all of these lines, and basically these keep you centered. I'm not going to go deep into how to use it. There are many, many, many videos online that will teach you everything that you need to know. I'm just giving you an overview of what to expect. And over here, you have all of the master. Basically, I go 2 pages at a time. You can quickly just click on If I want to go to page 16 and 17, there's a lot of copy and pasting involved once you get the first unit finished. And of course, once you have the main text finished, you will also need to create your cover. Once the cover is finished, then the ISBN is also something that you need to think about. What is an ISBN? The ISBN stands for International Standard Book Number and must be unique for each title and format. So depending on the marketplace, the cost for a single ISBN can range from $29 to $129, and an ISBN for an ebook only costs $29. But you will need to either purchase one of these, or it is free if you self-publish on Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. And I'll talk about Amazon Kindle a bit later in this video. If you decide to self-publish without using Amazon, now you can go to isbn.org by Bowker, and here you can purchase an ISBN. And over here, next to the ISBN, you will see a QR code. What is a QR code? Now again, QR codes are free if you have an Adobe package, or you can also find them free online. There are also websites that make you pay for them. But a QR code is something, for those that don't know, it's simply a code that you will take your telephone and take a picture of the code, and it will link that code to a website that you have. It can link you to Facebook. It can link you to Instagram. Wherever you want to send it, that is a very useful image to have on your book to generate more interest and traffic to your website. Now, when it comes to the software, I am a Luddite. I have always been a Luddite. What is a Luddite? A Luddite is a person opposed to new technology or ways of working. I'm not necessarily opposed, but I am right-brained, and I have a very difficult time learning by just listening or reading. Videos help me. I'm a very visual person. Now, if you're a Luddite, like me, don't worry, you too can do it. And basically, you should use YouTube. Welcome to YouTube University. If you use Affinity or InDesign, both programs have countless videos on how to make an InDesign book or an Affinity book, layout templates, how to create professional books for beginners, how to crop photos on Photoshop. Everything you need to know is on YouTube, and it's free. And Adobe also offers Q&A and videos on in its suite and in InDesign. So images, if you want to put images into your book, if you're a photographer, then I most definitely recommend creating your own. And using Adobe Photoshop, it looks very similar to InDesign. Again, you create the size of your template that you want to be using. So I upload an image of myself, and I want to just use the image and not the background. One of the main things that I use when I've created my own books is doing this. You basically take an outline of your image, cut out the background, and you can take that image, and now I'm here with Candace Owens, and we're both pitching our book at Barnes & Noble. But for some reason, all of these photographers are focused on her and not me. So I was a bit jaded after that experience. But Photoshop is fun. You can have a lot of fun with this creative adventure. And just to show you, your imagination, your creativity, some images. Now, this was not photoshopped, but this is just a photo that I used for my one of my units in my second book. Here, this is photoshopped, melding two photos into one. Obviously, photoshopped, artistic concept. This was my guitar, and so Photoshop. The longer you use it, the more YouTube videos that you watch, the more creative that you can become. If you don't have photographic talent, do not fret. However, be prepared to pull out the wallet unless you're using stock images from Adobe, which also costs money. But for copyright, there's a lot of images on the internet. You don't want to just download images because you might get into a copyright infringement problem. So you will go to a website, and I recommend two. BigStock and Shutterstock are two that I have used. For BigStock, they have different packages that are, or plans for any budget. For example, 5 images a day, $79 a month. So that basically is 150 images per month. For 300 images per month is $99 a month, and that would allow you to download 10 images a day, and then it just goes all the way up. And over here on Shutterstock, I think I used this one, 37. Well, this is in Korean won. So that would be, I don't know, probably $25 a month, maybe. And again, both are similar. They allow, depending on the package, they allow you to download a certain amount of images a day. So what I recommend is to plan before you purchase any package. Already have your concept down and a lot of your text down, and basically leave space for your images with an idea of what kind of image you want. And then when you're ready to start putting images into your book, actually, you can already start saving the images on these websites without paying for them. And then when you pay for it, you can just max out image per day. You only have to pay for the website for 1 month and then cancel. And the images are very high quality, and there's a good assortment. So another thing that I 100% recommend is to focus on one unit. Focus on the unit that you're most interested in. It doesn't have to be unit one, but you should finish your first unit from start to finish and be very happy with it and say, this is what I want my book to look like. And then once you do that, then you will just simply copy and paste the headline, the headers, the text boxes, everything from that unit, and you will just go through each unit on InDesign and plug it in, plug it in, plug it in, plug it in, copy, paste, and place, copy, paste, and place. And then go back to that unit and replace the text with the new unit information. So again, I'm very happy with this page, and so I will just copy the whole page, and then I will go to the next page over here where the listening and what do you think sections are. Click on it, and I will paste in place, and this will fill the new page, and then I will just come in here and change the images, change the questions, change the quote. KISS, keep it short and simple. This way you don't have to scroll through all of these pages back and forth, and wonder, is this the same text size as that? It can be a real headache. I can't stress it enough because I didn't do it my first book. I spent a lot of time scrolling and going through and replacing, and it's like, well, I want this 2 pixels larger, and now I have to go through the whole book again. Make sure you have one unit that you love, and you say, I'm ready to print this unit now. And then, if you can say that, now it's time to copy and paste in place to all the other units. Uniformity is very important. So just making sure that all text is the same, spacing, pages are correctly numbered, your table of contents lines up, your spelling and image sizes are correct. Once you're finished with all of the text, hopefully you have a printer at home with color and print it. Print out all of the pages and then proofread, and proofread it again. And then I also recommend that you find a colleague or a good friend who is literate, who has visual sensibility, and have him or her read it. If you can find 2 or 3 proofreaders, all the better. It's very easy to miss mistakes when you sit in front of your computer and are staring at the same screen for hours and hours. You overlook it. And then when you're ready to send it to the printer, you will need to send a high-quality PDF of both the text and a cover. So there will be 2 PDFs sent to the printer. This is what the PDF would look like. When the printer confirms the quality, the margins, the text, the images, everything looks good, you should order 1 test copy for a thorough review before making the main order. So they will send you 1 copy to your home. Take a month and look at it. Give it to your proofreaders to look at it. The next step is how to polish up and find a professional printer. So as I said before, you will be sending 1 PDF file for main text and 1 PDF for a cover. So this is my cover. You will have the spine, the front cover, and the back cover. You will have the QR code and the ISBN. And if you do decide to use Amazon, which is the Kindle Direct Publishing, here is the address you can go to. And basically this is print per order. You, as the author, do not order any of the books. Simply, you will put your information, your book up on Amazon under the book section. And if someone out there decides that they want to read your book, they will order it and it will be printed 1 at a time. There's no warehouse, there's no box of books anywhere to be had. And so this is what my Amazon webpage looks like. There is my memoir, and over here is my new book. There's the tell me about it. So the upside to using Kindle is it's totally free for you as the author. You just upload the PDF and your cover, and you now are a published author, a self-published author. The downside is you don't receive very much money per unit. I only receive about $1.50 to $3.50 per unit sold. My memoir actually sells a bit more. I get a bit more per book for the memoir than I do for any of the textbooks. This is what the first book that I used, that I printed. I got it printed in a very small print house in a city that I was living in, and I only printed 100 books, and it was not cheap to print. But back in the day, there's a CD poking out. I had my journal, and the margins are terrible. However, I went to a book fair in Seoul, and I met a man who worked for Tara TPS. Now, if you're an English teacher here in South Korea and you are interested in self-publishing, I recommend contacting Tara TPS. He came and he looked at this quality of book and he said, how much did you pay for this? And I said, about $7 per unit. And he said, that is way too much, way too much. I can print it for $3,000, which is about, I don't know, $2.50 per book. but 3,000 Korean won per book, and I can make it look a hell of a lot better. And I said, okay, I will come visit you. So here is their website, their address. They are up in Paju, which is north of Seoul, and the email address. You can contact Tara through email or phone number. When I created my second book, I decided to go with a different printer, KSI, and here's the information for KSI, telephone, email. This is the address in Korean. Both publishers, very, very good. So this was KSI, and this was Tara. Very similar product, and the price range was not too much different. I just decided to try something new, and I'm very happy and highly recommend both. So this again, this is a quotation sheet for those interested using the KSI, and it's not easy to read, but basically for the cover I used gloss art, which is 300 GSM, and a gloss lamination. They also offer matte finish. My first edition of Tell Me About It was matte, which is basically a dull looking but kind of velvety look, and I really like it. I still like it, but the glossy seems to keep cleaner, and also it is more commonly used for a textbook. The body is 128p, 4C, 4C, New Plus White 100 GSM. That's basically the paper quality, and the binding is a perfect binding. So if you don't have any idea what that means, it's basically standard for a textbook, and they will ask you what you want. And if you don't know, I would just suggest using what I'm giving you here. So this was the price of the book this was my test book that I asked them to send me before I made an order. And so they charged me 14,500 Korean won, which is about, I don't know, maybe $10, $11 American. And when you order 1,000 books, the price drops drastically, and it goes all the way down to 2,248 Korean won, which is 2,248,000 for 1,000 books. That might sound expensive, but once you start selling these books, you can make a return quickly and then start seeing a profit. And one way to do that is the old style of piling the books in the back of your car, just like they did with cassette tapes out of the back of your car or CDs out of the back of your car. That's one way to do it. And if you think about it, as I said down here, if you order 1,000 units, which is about 2.3 million Korean won. Now, if you sell one unit for basically $18, $17 American, or 20,000 Korean won, that'll be 20 million in your pocket, which is basically 17.7 million profit. Is 17.7 million worth your time to sit in front of the computer and create your dream? And see it on a shelf, and see it used in a classroom, and see other teachers using your book. See it up online. Now, once you're happy and you send the PDF of your text and your cover to the printer, it's no time to take a break. And even before you send off your PDFs to the printer, you should be brainstorming what type of supplementary content you want to be using with the book. And you should be working on this content while the book is being printed. So here's a sample PPT that I've created for my last book. For each unit, so example, this is unit 9, which is under wealth. And then I give an overview of the page, and I break down each page into sections in which the teacher can use with the class. So we go through each question one by one. I put a bit of animation in there just to keep the student's eye glued to the screen. This would be the next page, which is the words to know, vocabulary comprehension, and production. For the teacher's benefit, this on my PPT, I put the answers. This is the answer key for the teacher, so they don't have to put a lot of work into this. If they get the USB flash drive from you, if they buy, if they buy 5 books, you can give them a free USB with the PPT. Or if they buy 10 books or 20 books, it's up to you. Or you can charge them for the USB. But basically, it's the answer key. And also, if you have listening comprehension in your book, I recommend creating a YouTube channel. So, for example, this is a YouTube channel that I've done for my first book, which is Tell Me About It, and it's called 40 Questions, and this is basically built off of the journal insert. So inside this journal insert, there's 40 questions, and I interview different people here living in Korea. Now, this young man was from Gabon, and I interviewed him about Gabon, and I asked him the 40 questions from my journal, and so I use this 40 Questions YouTube channel as a listening comprehension for my classes, in which students will go home and watch part of an interview and take a quiz. So they have to listen to a different country. For example, I've got South Korea here. That's India, China. I've got Northern Ireland, Ireland, Mexico, Spain. All of these people are using English, but they're all using different intonation and accent. And I also have audio files for my first book, Tell Me About It, in which the dialogue, I had 2 teachers at my university record their voices reading the dialogue, and also my voice reading the vocabulary. So there's audio files that you can put on a USB in addition to the PPT answer key. And then this YouTube channel, Deeper Thoughts, is for my second book. A longer monologue. It's kind of a podcast. It's audio. Students will listen to the audio either with images or without, with text or without, for listening comprehension. And of course, don't forget your QR code. The QR code for this Deeper Thoughts podcast is on the back cover of my new book. Self-promotion. So now you have 1,000 books in your house. How do you get them out of your house? How do you sell them? Some free advice: use SNS. Creating a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever you are comfortable with. Create a page solely devoted to your project, to your book, and invite friends and family and colleagues and coworkers and students to like it. Also, if you are a teacher, using your students, well, number one, if you have a university that is friendly with you and you are with it, you can write up an application and develop your own class. I did it with my first book, and the second book, as I said, this new semester, I will be teaching the second book. If you don't have a friendly administration, use your students as guinea pigs with the content that you have in the book. You don't have to sell the book or use the book per se, but at least parts of the book or parts of the PPT that you've created with the book to make sure that it does work and it does flow. Business cards are not expensive, and it's a very cheap way to just pass out. And, if you go to a conference, pass out your business card. Word of mouth, that is one of the oldest ways to advertise. It's free. And if fellow teachers start teaching the book, hopefully they will talk about the book. Now, an imprint is a publisher, not a large publisher, but a smaller publisher. And for example, if you live here in South Korea, Conversation Based Learning is an imprint. It's a very small publishing house, and it's owned and operated by a friend of mine who is a self-published author. Him and his wife started this for small authors here in South Korea. You can contact him, and basically all you do, he will take your book. You will basically just, on the insert here, will say, this book is an imprint of conversation-based learning. And he has a business license. You, as a E2 visa or as a small author, will probably not have a business license to sell this book online. Gunther Bro, with Conversation-Based Learning, has a business license to sell these books online. So you do pay him a small fee, and he will get your book up on a few websites here in South Korea. Obviously, hitting the circuit, going to a COTESOL conference or other conferences to either present or just be in attendance. And again, if you have business cards, this is a great place to start passing out and talking about your project. Book fair. As I said earlier, I did go to a book fair. It was not cheap. I spent the full weekend up in this conference hall, and I sold very few books. On the upside, I did meet the sales rep for Tara TPS, so it was a success ultimately in the end. But had that not happened, I would have said that the book fair was a bust. Save your money. Of course, trying to find a major publishing house is very difficult unless you have friends in the business. I don't know. I really don't know how to break into a large publishing house these days. To save yourself a headache, just self-publish. My advice. So for online sales, as I mentioned earlier, Kindle is free, and that is up on Amazon. But if you go through conversation-based learning as an imprint, you can be, your book can be uploaded onto Gmarket, and you do not, now again, the business license is needed, so if you don't have it, you would need to have an imprint go under the umbrella of conversation-based learning. And he can also, Gunther, the owner of Conversation-Based Learning, can get you up on Aladin. So do's and don'ts. I have a longer list of do's and a shorter list of don'ts. Do be prepared to invest a lot of time and some money. Again, you'll have to pay for the software, but mostly it's a lot of time. And take your time. Take your time to learn the software as you create your book. Another way to promote your book is to get interviewed. If there's a podcast that you know of in the country that you can be invited on, go on there. Or if your university, if your students have a blog, tell them about your book. Also, when you first get your book, you're going to want to give away free copies. Don't expect people to want to be paying for this book when they have never seen it or heard about it before. So be prepared to either give away free copies or at least half-price copies, only to those people who promise to give you some feedback. While you are in the process of creating your book, give yourself deadline. Say, at the end of this month, I'm going to have this unit done. Or at the end of this week, I'm going to have this unit done. Once you get into the zone of creating, the time will fly by, and suddenly you won't want to get out of your chair. When the creative juices start flowing, and it's just like you're downloading it from the ether almost. And then at certain times you will get the writer's block. And if you do have writer's block, set yourself a deadline and say, this is going to be done, or at least finished, like completed, maybe not perfect, but I'm going to have this much done by this certain amount of time. Again, focus on one unit, not unit one, but a unit that you really like. And then when you're finished with it and you say, this is as good as I can get it, then you will use that unit as a template for all subsequent units. Supplementary content, again, using YouTube for audio, PPTs for teachers. Have a thick skin. Criticism is useful as long as it's not hateful. You will have people that will criticize your work just as you criticize other people's work. No problem. It is your baby. This textbook is your baby. You don't want to have people saying, oh, your baby's ugly. But even if they do, brush it off. And if you want to have another baby, make another textbook. You will take those criticisms and turn it into a better product. Use your students as guinea pigs. This would be basically before you get your book printed, hopefully. Make sure that the content that you will be putting into your book works. Enjoy the process and keep learning from your mistakes. And start now. No time like the present. Carpe diem. Some don'ts. Font matters. When I first started creating my book, I used papyrus. I thought it looked exotic, and it's like, oh, this looks like someone's traveling to Egypt. And then when I put it out there on a co-TESOL teacher's website on Facebook, the very first 5 comments were, is that papyrus? Don't use papyrus. Are you crazy? And I'm like, hey, I thought it looked good. But no, there are recommended texts. Myriad Pro is one that I recommend. And trying to keep if you have reading text, keep it to either 14 or 12-point font. Another don't is don't waste money. Try to keep your expenses down. Do not invest in expensive websites, t-shirts, magnets, cups, posters, any of the PR stuff. That's for the big publishing houses who have a large budget. As a self-published author, work on getting that book printed and 1,000 copies. You can go lower if you want to order 500 copies, but just remember, the price per unit will go up. If it's $3,000 per unit for 1,000 copies, it'll probably be $6,000 or more for 500 copies. The more you order, the less you pay, and that's a pretty good system. And finally, just don't give up. If you truly want to see your name on a cover and your content between the cover, don't give up. Keep that fire burning. So I will leave you with a final thought. The process of writing down, printing out, and publishing your concept, story, novel, or textbook can be therapeutic. You may not get the accolades you were hoping for. It may not be a New York Times bestseller. But just remember, you are leaving a unique and tangible product for all who wish to purchase, read, and or teach it. So I hope you enjoy the ride. For contact information, you can email me at latitude_adjustment@hotmail.com. Up here again is my QR code. You can find me at Facebook. under Latitude Publishing or at LinkedIn. Well, that's the presentation. I hope that you learned something from it. If you have any questions, you can contact me at any time. I wish you well if you do embark on this journey. It's a rewarding one. And if you excuse me, I'm going to get back into this book. I want to find out what happens to that goat that he found eating out of his food bowl. Ciao for now.